known as Twitter.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Their plan, Maganomics, is more extreme than anything America's ever seen before. They're back at it again, breaking their commitment, threatening more cuts and threatening to shut down the government again this month. Now, what they do talk about is claiming all these cuts are going to reduce the deficit. When it comes to reducing deficit, let's compare the records a little bit. Under my predecessor, you remember the self-professed king of debt?
Yeah.
Well, it turned out he was. He's actually the emperor of debt. He created more debt than any other president did in 1 year.
That is true, okay? Donald Trump added $7.8 trillion to the debt. $7.8 trillion. And, you know, when they're running up the debt and deficit by giving away tax breaks without pay-fors, things that will pay for their spending, they say deficits don't matter. And then every time they either crash the economy or we have a pandemic or, you know, the debt is out of control or the deficit is like, woo, like 150% of, GDP, then all of a sudden they go, oh, well, we have to cut Social Security. Oh, Medicare is contributing. Oh, you know. But never, ever the defense budget. No, never. Except for now. Now they won't even pass the defense budget. That's how radical the right-wing lunatic Freedom Crackers caucus is. These people are crazy. And they are determined to break this country. They are determined to end the democratic experiment. They are determined to destroy American democracy as we know it. They don't like it. They want autocracy. They want access to the bank account. They don't want anybody telling them that they can't have this money. They don't want to have to give a reason for this money. They don't want to have to, appropriate money and then live by what they appropriate. No, it is so radical. This is so crazy. And there is no reason for it other than what I just said. There's no reason except to create chaos. There is no reason to not fund the government. There's no reason to ignore the deal that they made 4 months ago. They just made this deal. And we gave them, everybody met in the middle. Democrats agreed to spending cuts. Yes, we did. We reduced the IRS funding. Because, they don't want complex IRS agents, to go through complex tax returns. They don't want the really skilled accountant type, corporate type accountants working at the IRS. Because then guys like Trump and Abbott and guys like Paxton, and all the corrupt, tax evaders would continue to get away with it. So we agreed to a reduction in IRS funding in exchange for the House Republicans to raise the debt limit and forego deeper cuts to things like Social Security and Medicare, right? There was like some savings there. There was modest savings there. But, and now as the new budget approaches, they don't want to, even abide by their own agreement. It's really sick.
We are, by my math, 11 days away from the deadline of September 30th, a week from Saturday, to get a new budget through and to keep the government from shutting down. I think a lot of people talk about this in political terms with brinksmanship and all the rest. But from where you sit at Treasury, what would a government shutdown mean to the economy?
Well, look, there's absolutely no reason why we should have a government shutdown. Democrats in both the House and the Senate and Republicans in the Senate are ready to pass appropriations bills or a continuing resolution to keep the government open and operating for the American people. Speaker McCarthy needs to find a way to do his job, which is to pass a continuing resolution or bills. So there's no reason. We've got a good, strong economy.
There you go.
It has a lot of momentum. Inflation is coming down. The labor market remains very strong. we really don't need a shock to the economy in the form of a slowdown. There's no reason for it at all.
Okay, so that's Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who obviously, as she's saying, we have a strong economy, we're in for a soft landing, the labor market is very strong. She's actually telling you why they want to shut down the government. She's actually outlining for you what the Republican objection is to funding the government. It is that we have momentum. It is that the economy is strong. It is that inflation is coming down ahead of an election year, 2024. It is that they have staked out a really untenable position on just about everything from books and banning them to African American history to abortion. Every single issue that they have weighed in on, they've been wrong on. All the polling is telling them that. And so now what do they need? They need the economy to be thrown into chaos. They need the economy to struggle. They need the labor market to be, out of control and contracting. They need, they got all these strikes going on. You got the writer's strike, the Screen Actors Guild strike. You got the UAW out on strike, right? And the Republicans understand that if they create chaos in the economy, it ain't going to go well for those people that are on strike. We're not going to get a contract for the UAW that actually understands that they're going to be making, vehicles in an age of artificial intelligence, in the age of robotics, right? And they're just trying to CYA, right? So that they have pensions when they're phased out, if that should happen, right? So that they can continue to support their middle-class families, if that's the choice of the big three, right? The same thing with the Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild. Their entire business model changed. It went from broadcast media to streaming. Okay, my whole thing is, is destroyed, right? Radio, the deregulation of, my business. So that's why, we're streaming this way, right? And everything changes. It does. That's what progress actually brings with it. It's a double-edged sword. It's a two-sided coin. And all workers are saying, well, but the Republicans understand that if they crash the economy, then everybody's going to be left with nothing. And that's their goal. It's what they want. It's what they're after. It's what they need in order to win. Because all of their policies on everything that you could possibly think of are not popular. I've told you this a million ways to Sunday. They have no platform. They state nothing that they're for. Because if they told you what they are for, which is more tax cuts unpaid for the wealthy, more trickle-down economics that never works, less health care, less education, less child care, less child tax credits, less Social Security, less Medicare, definitely no Medicaid, right? Less food stamp money. If they told you what they were for, you would laugh so hard and walk away and say, what, are you crazy? Really? I vote for you and then you stiff me? I vote for you and then you punch me in the face? I vote for you and then you take away my lifeline? Yes. And that's why they cheat. There is no reason to shut down the government, none, but they do this to us year after year after year after year. But now the time and the space between threats is getting smaller and shorter, right? So 4 months ago, they made a deal. 4 months ago, they actually, the far right actually wanted a budget that would slash funding for everything, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, education, you name it, the DOJ, FBI, slash funding across the board. They wanted to cut it by 8%. 8%. You're talking about cuts to education, transportation, national parks, public health, law enforcement, the whole thing. The Democrats said, all right, sit down, let's talk about this. And we got a deal. And we said, okay, we'll cut spending by like 1%, sort of flat funding is what it is, no increase. And we always had like a 2% year-over-year increase. We said, okay, we'll do flat funding, no increase. And they shook our hands. They said, yeah, that's good. And now they want to renege on that. Why? Because I'm telling you, they want us completely rattled. They want all the progress, all the economic progress, all of the good stuff that's happening to American families and workers. They want it to end. They feel like that's the only way that they can win in 24, and they're willing to do it. Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to RandiRhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.